We are counting down the 10 UK butter brands you will want to avoid at all costs, plus 5 that actually deserve a place on your table. From blended spreads packed with cheap vegetable oils and additives that hardly qualify as real butter, to mass-market tubs hiding behind buttery labels, you might be shocked at what is lurking in your fridge. We will reveal which brands get the recipe so wrong they barely meet legal definitions, and which classic butters keep things pure, creamy, and authentic. Which brand tops the list for the most misleading imitation? Let us begin, starting with number 10. Tesco's buttery spread is a staple in many UK fridges, but a quick glance at the label reveals a very different story from what you might expect. Instead of cream or butter at the top, the first ingredients listed are water and rapeseed oil, followed by palm oil and only a tiny 3% reconstituted buttermilk. That means this tub is built on cheap vegetable oils and water, with dairy playing a minor role. The rest of the ingredients read like a chemistry set: emulsifiers such as monoglycerides and diglycerides of fatty acids, the preservative potassium sorbate, an acidity regulator, added vitamins, colour, and artificial flavouring. Under UK law, this cannot be called butter. It is a blend engineered for spreadability and shelf life, not for real dairy richness. When spread on toast, the texture turns greasy rather than creamy, leaving a slick shine instead of soaking in. The taste is flat, missing the depth and sweetness of true butter. Tesco's buttery spread sets the tone for the countdown. If water and vegetable oils come before any dairy on the label, you are not getting real butter, no matter what the front of the tub claims. Asda's Buttersoft spread promises a hassle-free breakfast, boasting that it glides onto toast straight from the fridge. That effortless softness is not a sign of dairy richness. It is the result of liquid rapeseed oil taking center stage. Water tops the ingredient list, followed closely by rapeseed oil, while buttermilk plays only a minor role, usually tucked away lower down. This formula is engineered for one thing: spreadability at cold temperatures. The classic cold knife test tells the story. With real butter, a fridge-fresh slice resists the blade, holding its shape. With Buttersoft, the knife slides through with almost no effort, leaving a slick, shiny layer instead of a creamy melt. The trade-off is clear: the more oils and water, the less authentic butter taste. What you gain in convenience, you lose in flavour. The result is a spread that is easy on the wrist, but flat and oily on the tongue. Softness is achieved by diluting the very thing that makes butter. For shoppers drawn to the promise of instant spreadability, it is worth checking the label. When water and oil come first, real dairy takes a back seat. Sainsbury's spreadable butter basic looks harmless on the shelf, but a closer look at the label tells a different story. The front of the pack leans heavily on the word butter, but right beneath, or on the back, the small print spells out blend of butter and rapeseed oil. That single word blend means this is not pure butter. In fact, Sainsbury's quid declaration usually reveals a recipe that is only about 50% butter, with the rest made up of rapeseed oil, water, salt, and colour additives like beta-carotene. The beta-carotene is there to mimic the rich yellow of real butter, but the texture and taste do not compare. Emulsifiers are often tucked into the ingredients too, helping the mix stay stable but taking it further from traditional butter. The confusion does not stop at the ingredients. Sainsbury's also sells pure block butter, but the spreadable blend sits right next to it in similar packaging, making it easy to grab the wrong tub by mistake. The only real giveaway is that fine print word, blend. For anyone who wants authentic butter, that is the label to watch for. The front might promise tradition, but the back tells you what is really in the tub. Morrison's budget spreadable might look like a classic butter tub, but the ingredient list tells a different story. Butter is only part of the mix, right alongside rapeseed and palm oils, water, and a handful of additives. That palm oil is not just a recipe shortcut, it is a global commodity linked to deforestation and ongoing debates over what counts as sustainable. Morrison's points to RSPO certification for its palm oil, but environmental watchdogs say those standards leave plenty of loopholes, with habitat loss and carbon emissions still a risk. A scan of the price tag makes the trade-off clear. At around £2 for a 500-gram tub, that works out to just £1 per 250 grams, less than half the cost of most pure butter blocks. The savings come from diluting dairy with cheaper plant oils and relying on industrial processing. That is why the texture lands somewhere between creamy and greasy, and the flavour is noticeably flat compared to real butter. The emulsifiers and preservatives help it last longer and stay soft, but they cannot deliver the richness or complexity of a proper churned butter. For shoppers on a tight budget, Morrison's spreadable blend seems like a bargain. But the low shelf price hides the real cost: less dairy, more palm oil, and a product that is a world away from the taste and ethics of traditional British butter. When the label lists vegetable oils ahead of cream or butter, you are not just saving money, you are getting a spread that is engineered for price, not for flavour or transparency. Co-op spreadable tub sits on shelves with rolling green fields and a wholesome, community-first reputation. For many shoppers, that logo signals trust, a retailer that talks about ethics and local sourcing. But the story changes when you flip the pack and read the ingredients. Instead of cream or butter leading the way, rapeseed oil comes first, followed by water, then butter. That order is not just a technicality, it means there is more oil than dairy in every spoonful. The ingredient panel does not stop there. E471, mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, joins the list alongside lecithin, both working as emulsifiers to hold the blend together. These are not ingredients you would find in a traditional butter churn. Their job is to keep oil and water from separating, making the spread feel smooth and stable even after weeks in the fridge, but they also push the product further away from real butter, both in taste and in texture. On the table, the difference is clear. A pat of Co-op spreadable melts into a thin, oily layer rather than soaking into toast with that familiar creamy richness. The flavour is muted, with the natural sweetness of churned cream replaced by a bland, slightly processed aftertaste. Even the colour is managed. Beta-carotene is added to give the illusion of a golden dairy-rich spread. Many shoppers pick up Co-op spreadable, trusting the brand's ethical halo. But a closer look at the label tells a different story. A trusted name and a pastoral design cannot cover up a formula built on vegetable oil and stabilizers. For anyone seeking true butter, the lesson is simple. Do not let the packaging do the talking. Always check the ingredients. When rapeseed oil comes first and E numbers follow, you are not buying real butter, no matter how trustworthy the brand seems. Country Life is one of Britain's most recognisable butter brands, with a heritage block that has long been a staple in fridges across the country. But the story changes the moment you reach for the tub marked spreadable. Instead of pure churned cream, this version is built on a 50-50 formula, about half real butter, the rest made up of rapeseed oil, water, salt, and colour. That split is right there in the quid declaration, but it is easy to miss if you are just glancing at the familiar branding. A side-by-side look at the packs tells the story. The classic Country Life block lists only cream and salt, just 2 ingredients, pure and nothing extra. The spreadable tub, on the other hand, puts rapeseed oil right after butter in the ingredient list, followed by water and beta-carotene for colour. That means there is as much oil as there is dairy fat, and the added colour is there to mimic the deep yellow of real butter. The result is a product that spreads straight from the fridge, but the flavour gets watered down and the richness thins out. The texture is softer, but it lacks the creamy, slow melting quality that makes pure butter so satisfying. Country Life's reputation is built on tradition, but the spreadable blend trades authenticity for convenience. The branding leans heavily on heritage, yet the tub delivers a modern shortcut, half butter and half oil, and a long way from the real thing. For anyone after true British butter, the difference between block and blend could not be clearer. Check the ingredient order, not just the logo. Flora buttery sits in supermarket chillers with a name that practically shouts butter from the shelf. But the reality is a masterclass in food marketing versus what is actually in the tub. Turn the pack around and the word butter is nowhere to be found in the ingredients. Flora buttery is built almost entirely from plant oils, typically a blend of rapeseed, sunflower and coconut oil, plus water, salt, an emulsifier such as lecithin and added vitamins. No cream, no churned milk fat, not even a passing nod to real butter. The only thing buttery about it is the branding and a dash of natural flavourings designed to mimic dairy. This formula is not new. Flora started life as a classic margarine, riding the wave of the 1980s and the 1990s. Advertising that promised heart health through plant oils and lower cholesterol. Over the years, the recipe has flipped between various oils and even flirted with adding or removing palm oil to match the latest trends. But the core remains the same. Flora Buttery is a spread engineered in the factory, not the dairy. The texture is soft and easy to spread, but the mouthfeel is more like oil than cream, and the taste leans artificial, a far cry from the deep, sweet notes of true butter. The irony is hard to miss. Flora Buttery uses the language of butter and the look of dairy-rich tradition, but delivers none of the substance. It is 0% butter, 100% branding. For anyone scanning the aisle for a real dairy spread, this is a classic case of label spin. If you want actual butter, skip the buttery option and check for cream at the top of the ingredients. What is inside Flora Buttery is plant oil dressed up in a dairy disguise. Clover Original sits high on the UK spread charts, but the story behind this familiar tub is all about engineering a butter-like experience with the bare minimum of actual dairy. The front label leans into countryside nostalgia, yet the back panel tells a different tale. The first thing listed is vegetable oils, specifically rapeseed and palm, making up the bulk of the product. Buttermilk, the only real dairy, clocks in at just 20%. That is not even close to the 80% milk fat required for real butter. Instead, this formula relies on a calculated mix of plant oils for spreadability, with buttermilk and flavorings drafted in to give the illusion of richness. The ingredient order is no accident. By law, whatever comes first is present in the largest amount, so when oils lead the way, you know what you are really eating. E160A, also known as beta-carotene, is added to mimic the golden hue of churned butter, while natural flavorings are there to trick the nose and tongue into thinking they are tasting something far creamier than reality delivers. The result is a product that spreads easily, melts quickly, and tastes at first glance surprisingly buttery, especially compared to some supermarket blends. That is the power of food science. A small fraction of buttermilk can carry a lot of flavour, especially when it is propped up by carefully crafted aromas. But when a blind taste panel put Clover Original up against real butter, the difference was easy to spot. The panel scored Clover high for spreadability and initial taste, but marked it down for a greasy afterfeel and a finish that faded fast. The buttery notes are there, but they are fleeting, replaced by a neutral, oily slick that lingers on the palate. It is a spread designed to please as many people as possible, but it does so by leaning on oils and additives rather than genuine dairy richness. Clover's market share is strong, and its supermarket shelf presence is hard to miss, but ingredient panels do not lie. When oils come first and buttermilk is just a supporting act, you are buying a product built for cost and convenience, not for authentic butter flavour. This is the classic small dairy fraction trick, enough to suggest tradition, but never enough to deliver the real thing. As the countdown continues, the next entry takes the engineered approach even further, swapping out even more dairy in favour of pure functionality. Stork Baking Spread has never tried to hide its identity. Unlike most brands in this countdown, it does not pretend to be butter. It has always been a specialist baking fat, engineered for the home baker who wants cakes with a soft, airy crumb. The secret is not dairy, but chemistry. Stork's ingredient list leads with vegetable oils and fats, typically palm and rapeseed, followed by water, salt, and a cocktail of emulsifiers. Chief among these is E471, mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, which are standard in commercial cake margarines. Their job is to trap air in the batter, stabilize bubbles, and help cakes rise high and evenly. In practical terms, this means Stork is almost unbeatable for texture if you are baking a Victoria sponge or classic fairy cakes. In side-by-side bakes, the Stork version often comes out taller, with a finer, softer crumb than a butter-based recipe. That is not kitchen folklore, it is a well-documented effect of emulsified fats in baking science. Mono and diglycerides lower surface tension, allowing more air to be whipped in, and they stop those bubbles from collapsing as the cake bakes. The result is a light, springy texture that is hard to achieve with plain butter alone. But the trade-off is flavour. Stork contains no cream, no real milk fat, just neutral vegetable oils and added flavorings to mimic the aroma of butter. On toast, the difference is stark. A pat of Stork melts quickly but leaves a bland, slightly synthetic aftertaste, with none of the richness or subtle sweetness that comes from real dairy. Even in a shortbread bake test, where texture matters less than taste, Stork's version holds its shape but delivers a flat, one-note flavor. The crumb is uniform and soft, but the signature buttery depth is missing entirely. For anyone who values pure ingredients, Stork is the definition of ultra-processed, a product built for function, not authenticity. It is not masquerading as butter, but its performance in the kitchen makes it easy to see why some shoppers reach for it out of habit. Still, if you are after real butter flavor on your toast or in your bakes, Stork's clever emulsifier system cannot deliver what cream and thyme can. That is why it lands so high on this list. Not for deception, but for being the ultimate shortcut, good rise, good crumb, but a world away from true butter. At the top of the avoid list sits Utterly Butterly, a brand that has built its identity on cheerful farmyard images and a name that sounds like a celebration of classic British dairy. The packaging leans into nostalgia, with cartoon cows, green fields, and a font that practically winks at you from the fridge. But the truth is a world away from those sunny scenes. Flip the tub around and the first thing you find is not cream, but a blend of vegetable oils, usually palm and rapeseed, making up the bulk of the spread. Buttermilk is present, but only as a minor supporting ingredient, sometimes as little as 10% or less. The rest of the recipe reads like a lesson in industrial food design. Water, salt, colorants like beta-carotene to fake the deep yellow of churned butter, and a cocktail of flavorings to mimic the aroma of the real thing. Consumer surveys have shown that many shoppers pick up Utterly Butterly thinking they are getting something close to butter. Nearly half of respondents in a 2023 poll could not correctly identify it as a plant oil spread when shown only the front label. That impression is by design. The brand's entire visual language is built to evoke trust in traditional dairy, even as the actual product is a margarine-style blend with a long list of additives. The legal name tucked away in small print spells it out: vegetable oil spread with buttermilk. That phrase tells the story under UK law. For a product to be called butter, it must contain at least 80% milk fat and no added plant oils. Utterly Butterly does not even come close. The performance on toast is just as telling. Real butter melts into the crumb, leaving a creamy pool and rich aroma. Utterly Butterly forms a slick, almost oily layer that sits on the surface. The mouthfeel is greasy rather than creamy, and the taste, while initially convincing, fades quickly to a bland, artificial finish. In side-by-side melt tests at 40 degrees Celsius, Utterly Butterly separates into a thin film of oil and water, lacking the cohesive melt of real dairy butter. The color stays bright thanks to added beta-carotene, but that is a visual trick. There is no golden creaminess beneath. Label reading confirms the story. Vegetable oils, palm, rapeseed, water, buttermilk, salt, flavorings, color, beta-carotene. No sign of cream or high milk fat content. For all the countryside branding, this is an ultra-processed spread designed for price, shelf life, and convenience, not for authentic flavor or ingredient purity. The final irony is the name itself. Utterly Butterly is utterly not butter. It is the ultimate example of marketing over substance, the clearest case in the UK, of a product that trades on dairy nostalgia while delivering mostly vegetable fat. If you are looking for real butter, this is the one tub to leave behind. Scottish Orkney butter stands apart from the supermarket crowd, offering a taste of tradition that is almost impossible to fake. The ingredient panel says it all: cream and salt, nothing else. No vegetable oils, no emulsifiers, no colorings, just pure dairy from cows grazing on the windswept grasslands of Orkney. This is not a mass-produced block churned out for shelf life. It is a small batch butter, slow churned in local dairies where the process is measured in patience, not minutes. That slow churning draws out a depth of flavor and a creamy mouthfeel that is hard to find anywhere else. The color is the first clue, a deep gold, a sign of cows feeding on rich natural pasture. Slice into a block and you will notice the texture, dense yet yielding, with a natural sheen that does not come from added oils or stabilizers. On toast, Orkney butter melts in slowly, soaking into the crumb and leaving behind a richness that lingers. The salt is balanced, just enough to lift the dairy sweetness without overpowering it. Because it is made in small batches, you will not find Orkney butter in every supermarket up and down the country. For those who do track it down, the reward is a butter that delivers everything the label promises. Honest ingredients and the kind of flavour that can only come from real cream and careful traditional methods. It is a reminder that butter does not need a long ingredient list to be exceptional. Sometimes the simplest recipe, cream, salt, thyme, produces the richest results. Number 4. Abernethy butter from Northern Ireland is proof that real butter can still be made the old-fashioned way. Each batch starts with fresh local cream, gently churned, and then hand-rolled on wooden boards, a process that has not changed for generations. This is not just a marketing story, it is a micro-dairy where every roll is formed and wrapped by hand, giving the butter its signature smooth texture and delicate finish. The ingredient list is as pure as it gets: pasteurized cream and a pinch of salt, nothing more. No vegetable oils, no emulsifiers, no stabilizers, just real dairy carefully worked until it reaches a texture that spreads like silk and melts cleanly on warm bread. The taste has caught the attention of chefs across the UK and Ireland. Abernethy butter is a favourite in Michelin-starred kitchens where its clean, rich flavour stands out in both simple dishes and fine dining. Food critics have called it rich, tangy and incredibly creamy, praising its depth and the way it elevates even the most basic ingredients. The butter's smoothness comes from slow churning and the careful hand-rolling technique, which breaks down the fat crystals for a softer, more luxurious mouthfeel. This is not a butter you will find in every supermarket, but its influence runs far beyond its size. Abernethy butter has become a benchmark for what real artisan butter should be: pure, handcrafted, and full of flavour. For anyone who cares about authenticity and craftsmanship, it is a reminder that the best butters are made with patience, skill, and a respect for tradition. Yeo Valley organic butter stands out on supermarket shelves for one simple reason: the ingredient list is as clean as it gets. For the salted version, it is just organic British cream and a pinch of salt, no vegetable oils, no emulsifiers, no unexpected extras. Every pack is certified by the Soil Association, a mark that means more than just organic. It guarantees the cows are fed on non-GM feed, graze on pasture for most of the year, and are raised to higher welfare standards than conventional dairy herds. That's not just good for the cows, it's good for the butter too. The result is a block that feels rich and creamy straight from the fridge, with a subtle tang and depth you only get from fresh organic cream. Spread it on toast and it melts slowly, soaking in rather than sitting on top. The taste is clean, with no hint of the flat, oily notes that come from processed blends. Because Yeo Valley is stocked in major supermarkets across the UK, it is one of the easiest ways to make the switch to real butter without hunting down a specialist deli or paying artisan prices. The packaging spells it out: organic cream, salt, nothing else. For anyone who wants real butter with the reassurance of certified organic farming and animal welfare, Yeo Valley delivers on every count. Lurpak block butter has earned its reputation as a supermarket staple for a reason. The ingredient list is refreshingly short: just cream, lactic cultures, and salt for the salted version. No vegetable oils, no emulsifiers, and nothing to dilute that pure dairy taste. The result is a block that slices clean, feels dense in the hand, and melts slowly into toast, pooling into the crumb instead of sitting on top. The flavour is balanced, creamy with a subtle tang from the cultures, and a finish that lingers in a way only real butter can manage. But here is where a little vigilance pays off. Lurpak also sells a spreadable tub, often sitting right next to the block on the shelf. The packaging looks similar, but a quick flip to the ingredients tells a different story. The spreadable version blends butter with rapeseed oil and sometimes water, making it soft straight from the fridge but less rich in flavour. The texture changes too, and on toast the spreadable leaves a thinner, almost oily layer, missing the slow melting luxury of the block. This is a classic example of why reading the label matters, even within the same brand. The block is real butter, cream, cultures, salt, nothing else. The spreadable is a convenience blend, engineered for softness, but sacrificing the full dairy experience. For anyone seeking authentic butter, the block is the safe bet. It is widely available, consistent, and delivers on taste and texture. Lurpak block butter secures its spot near the top of the list because it is the real deal. Just be sure to grab the right pack when you are at the fridge. Kerrygold sits at the very top of the clean butter list, and for good reason. The ingredient panel is as simple as it gets: pasteurized cream and salt, nothing more. That is not just a marketing line, it is the legal definition of butter in the UK, and Kerrygold delivers without compromise. What sets it apart, though, is what happens before the churning even begins. Kerrygold's classic block is made from the milk of Irish cows that graze on lush green pastures for the majority of the year. That grass-fed diet gives the butter its signature deep yellow hue, a colour that does not come from added beta-carotene or clever tricks, but from the natural beta-carotene in fresh grass. Cut into a block, and the richness is visible before you even taste it. On the tongue, Kerrygold is unmistakable, creamy with a tangy edge and a finish that lingers. Food writers and blind taste panels often praise its balance of salt and sweetness, and the way it melts into toast or vegetables. The texture is dense and smooth, never greasy or oily, and there is no need for emulsifiers or stabilizers. Every bite carries the flavors of real dairy, shaped by the seasons and the land. Kerrygold's reputation for quality is backed by decades of consumer loyalty and a consistent record in taste tests across the UK and beyond. It is widely available in supermarkets, making it an accessible choice for anyone looking to swap out processed blends for the real thing. There are no shortcuts in the recipe, just cream, salt, and the careful work of Irish dairy farmers. For shoppers who want butter that is as honest as its label, Kerrygold stands as the gold standard, pure, flavorful, and rooted in the tradition of grass-fed dairy. Across all 15 brands, one pattern stands out. The butter aisle is dominated by products that blur the line between real dairy and engineered spreads. In the UK, words like buttery mask how far many options stray from tradition. That makes every purchase a choice between authenticity and convenience. For anyone who cares about what ends up on their table, reading the label isn't just smart, it is essential. Want more food truths? Subscribe and join the conversation below.